hesitate to seek the advice of your ates and kuyas from STAC Silicon Valley. Thank you and good evening.
Am I really an ate? Just kidding. No, thank you, Deputy Consul General Hyman. Yeah, that's one of the things. It's very easy for us to extend a helping hand. We're so proud of the accomplishments that a number of, the startups, the milestones that they've been able to achieve. We were extremely surprised and happy at the same time. And so when IdeaSpace sent an email saying, is there anybody in the community that can help with lodging and making the PageSnap team feel at home, we were ready and able to do that. Angela, we actually had to send them photos because I don't think they knew what we looked like, but I sent a photo of Angela because Angela met them at the airport, so it was pretty funny. But before we go on, I'd like to also introduce our next partner, again, who is extremely instrumental. He is a businessman at heart. He has done a lot for the country in terms of increasing, I guess, awareness of what the country has to offer in terms of business and services. And we've become good friends through the course of his year and a half here as the Trade Commissioner for DTI, for the Philippines. And with that, I'd like to introduce Trade Commissioner Mike Ignacio. And he also speaks Bisaya. So that's also a good characteristic.
Hi, well, thank you everyone for coming to this evening on such a relatively short notice. We didn't know the schedule of our hackers because they were full with the activities of Angel Hack and TechCrunch, but we were able to pull this through and host them in a mixer to introduce them into the Filipino community and the Filipino young professionals in the Bay Area, the movers and shakers in our community here. Well, thank you everyone for coming. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge, well, of course, our Deputy Consul General who represents our Consul General, Marciano Painor, who unfortunately is not in the city right now. He's doing important work for the country. But our Deputy Consul General has ably represented him, Jaime Ramon Ascalon, and my fellow, the other consuls, Consul Ryan Quinones and Consul Reginald Bernabet. Thank you for hosting us here. I'd like to acknowledge, of course, our partners, STAC Silicon Valley, which I should say is our official partner for entrepreneurship development and the development of tech startups for Filipinos in the Bay Area. We're trying to bring them mainstream. We're just not selling to Filipinos, but that's what they've been doing for the past 2 weeks. And this is not new. STAC Silicon Valley has actually been on a 4-year run of a similar program called On3. We've been doing pitch competitions in the Philippines, even before my time here. And we brought companies here, and we're still bringing more companies, and they have a stint in plug-and-play tech, where the giants of today's business in Silicon Valley were born. So Skype, I think, was born there. So we're trying to bring them how to market in Silicon Valley and then to the world. With this as an excellent stepping stone. And that's what STAC does in partnership with the DFA and the Department of Trade and Industry. I'm with the Department of DTI, the Department of Trade and Industry of the Philippines. So I have a convenient office here in this building and in Santa Clara. And what we do in my office is we promote trade and investment between the Philippines and the US. I've been assigned in other posts, Brussels and London before here. And I think this being posted here is a unique position for me to be in. It's where actually this is game changing. Before in my other posts, I used to do traditional business. Right here, we nurture startups and things that I don't do before. I just deal with big business and oil and energy. But all this is very exciting, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring them here and show the world that the Filipino tech genius is here. And another of my introductions tonight is a brainchild between my office, the Philippine Trade and Investment Center, and One Virtual Source, which will aim to create an online global platform for Philippine services that will provide US market access for small, medium, and even large Philippine companies in just a click of a button. So we'll ask JR, CEO of One Virtual Source, to talk about that. Then I'd like to congratulate, of course, our Philippine hackers who represent this very live and vivid community of startups in the Philippines. There's actually a burgeoning crowd of tech startups called Startup PH and Facebook, and they do amazing things. And these two companies, PageSnap and Shoot and Sell, are very good examples of how excellent they are and what they do. For example, of course, we Filipino startup, PageSnap won the Angel Hack competition in Manila. But Singapore had its own version, and another Filipino team partnered with the Singaporean also won that. So there's a joke going around that maybe next year we'll send a Filipino team to all the Angel Hack competitions around Southeast Asia, and for sure we'll have more Filipino teams coming next year. So with that, I leave you to Christina, who will guide us on with the program. I'd like to acknowledge our guests. Well, Payment Wall is a Silicon Valley startup, and they're doing very well. We're trying to connect them with Philippine business, and they have a Philippine office. So this is all about connecting and networking and business matching, and this is all happening. So thanks to everyone. Thanks for our media partners as well for being here and for covering. I think this is a good start. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Trade Commissioner. I wanted to do a survey tonight. How many of you are here for the first time at a STAC event? Okay, so we have almost half the room here at a STAC event. My name is Christina Rodriguez-Laskowski. I serve as president of STAC Silicon Valley, which is the Science and Technology Advisory Council. It's a nonprofit, 501c3. It was founded in the early 1990s. Actually, the idea sprung out of the Department of Foreign Affairs when Poch Macaranas was here. He's now a member of the faculty at the Asian Institute of Management in Manila. And I'll just share with you a brief overview so you can understand why this is very significant for us. The idea began in the early 1990s, and what had started out as an idea of harnessing intellectual capital around the world through STAC hubs, because there was an observation that many Filipinos could not pursue a PhD in the Philippines. Their talents were basically put to use elsewhere. They basically were able to get their PhDs in other countries, and then their intellectual capital ended up residing in those countries. And so even though we were starting to educate a number of bright minds, we really couldn't monetize or optimize all of that investment within the country. There was a study done, and I'm sure if any of you attended a PhilDev event, that talks about the development of the countries and what drives a lot of development of nations around the world, and that is science and technology that essentially drives a lot of the growth. You build something proprietary, whether it's in the fields of science or in the area of technology. You now have industries. You can now employ your educated workforce, and you can create self-sufficiency through that model. We recognized that the initial model for STAC, which was creating these hubs around the world and reviewing research papers, wasn't actually going to help transform what was going on or what we could see as the potential of the country. In 2007, the board members of STAC and my chairman, who's one of the original founders, Dennis Fernandez, who's right over there in the corner, we got together and we had a conversation with DTI and DFA and said, we're here. You have a whole bunch of Filipino Silicon Valley professionals with expertise in specific areas. Do you still want to leverage this knowledge? Because we think that we could, help the country in little ways. And that was a conversation with Consul General, who then mobilized the effort. I mean, he's not here tonight, but I have to say that he did a lot by coordinating a meeting with the President of the Philippines in 2008. We had a breakfast meeting. In August of 2009, we signed the memo of agreement. In 2010, we submitted our 5-year strategic plan, and the rest is history. One thing that you will recognize with how things have developed with STAC Silicon Valley is that our strategic plan was very similar to the way that we would advise a startup. You do due diligence, you understand your market, you understand your audience, you basically go through these steps for you to execute successfully. We did not want to transplant Silicon Valley in the Philippines. That wasn't our intention. Our intention was, what is the low-hanging fruit? Where are our strengths, and how can we help optimize and monetize those strengths? And so we did start out with a fact-finding mission. We submitted, a report. We actually, myself and another board member served as members of this public scientist program. I'm not a scientist by background. I have a finance degree. I'm actually one of the only, I think, non-technical board member as part of STAC. But we all recognized that the country had so much potential. If we could see the potential of Filipinos around the world, whether in the fields of medicine, science, in technology. I mean, Dado Banato is, basically, he's a hero for many of us who started from nothing, started 3 tech companies, and the next is history. We were saying there could be so many of those around, and if we could help in a little way, that would be great. So what started out is by just trying to identify one area, we ended up finding that there was no community within the Philippines that was supporting startups or entrepreneurship. No one knew what was brewing in the minds of these students around the country. So we developed a on-3 pitch competition. It started out as a prototype for us to understand what kind of ideas were brewing in the community with entrepreneurs. And then it evolved into not only a pitch competition, but it evolved into sort of a prototype for due diligence and research and understanding of what's taking place in the country. Just like in the United States and other parts of the world, there are pockets where things take place. In Boston and in RTP, the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, you have a lot of emphasis on the science areas. Here in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of emphasis in technology. In New York, a lot of emphasis on the online marketing and commerce side. And so we felt that, well, maybe in the Philippines it might be the same thing. And so if we could team up with DOST, DTI, and DFA, do a rolling competition across the country, we can then begin to discover what hot pockets there were in different regions of the country, and start to build a community where everyone can collaborate and work with each other to really build the infrastructure and support an ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And that's what we started doing beginning in 2009, 2010. And I'm happy to say that in the last 2 years, we have been extremely surprised. We had a 5-year plan. We had milestones. One of our milestones by 2015 was to see 2 companies funded. 3 of our on-3 companies were already funded. They were funded within the first year. So that's given us a lot of, joy and happiness. We're now hosting hackers that won Angel Hack that are internationally recognized. This is huge. I mean, TechCrunch is a very well-known, it started out as a media, company, and then they host a number of events, and so it was pretty significant. So I'm thinking that, fast forward, in 4 years, there's a lot that's been achieved in the country, whether it's the leadership, moves to reduce, corruption in the country, a concerted effort for everybody to come together as a community. I mean, even this effort tonight, it's basically a collaboration between the private sector, the government, volunteers, all of you here in the community. That's been really instrumental for where we are today. And I think if we continue to work together and support each other, that the country will go far in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, it's exciting. We have APEC, which is the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation. That's taking place in the Philippines in 2015. It is all eyes on us right now. There's been a lot of positive news, and I think for this to continue is that we have to continue to work together, support each other, and do what we can, to make a difference, with the country and with us. And it's a bridge between the Filipino American community here and with the Philippines. So that's just a very quick overview of what we've done, what we feel is important, why this evening's event is very important. And with that, I'd like to open it up for the next event, which will be to introduce a friend who served as the president of the Filipino Entrepreneurs Network. He moved back to the Philippines, is now, he's the founder of IdeaSpace, which is the largest incubator and accelerator in the Philippines. It's part of the Smart Communications family, PLDT, etc. PageSnap, one of the hacker groups, was actually incubated at IdeaSpace, and we are here tonight because he moved back to the Philippines about a year ago, helped develop IdeaSpace, recognized that there was talent in the country, and now we're actually here in the presence of both him and one of the companies that was incubated at IdeaSpace. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Earl Valencia.
So I'll do a really quick presentation because I realized that, so who's again first time here in the center or first time thinking knowing about Philippine startups, Philippine startup ecosystem, or the Philippines in general, right? So hopefully, let's click it up here. So what I want to talk to you guys about over the next 5 to 10 minutes really is my observations. And it's always say it's a sales pitch, but let me tell you, it's a sales pitch of why you should think about the Philippines as potential destination for business and technology. And hopefully one day in your life, you realize that there's some interesting things that could happen for either your businesses or for investments in general. Oh, good. Yeah, so this is it. So I actually have a program with Stanford Business School where they bring in some MBA interns from the GSB, and this is made by one of them, ex-McKinsey person from Japan. So what we tried to realize when I looked at investments in the Philippines, that it's not the same as Silicon Valley. Maybe some are similar, but it really looks at markets such as Indonesia, Myanmar, Africa, because there's emerging markets, right? Interesting enough in the Philippines that you live in two worlds. The world of the high lifestyle, right? But also beside that are shanties, right? So that's the reality. In ADB, it's called the two phases of the growth of Asia, right? And that's why the ideas that come out of markets like the Philippines are extremely cost efficient, right? At the same time, it thinks about how to scale it up to the mass market. So those are the two interesting traits. I don't know if you knew this, but the Philippines in Q1 was the fastest growing economy in Asia. In Q2, tied with China as the fastest growing economy also in Asia. So for 2 straight quarters, actually really good news, right? So it was also good timing for me to move back a year and a half ago. And very interesting enough, I don't know if for people doing, we are actually, the advantage, as much as we don't think so, is our English speaking capability, right? So only in the past year, probably every week, an investor from another country, someone from Denmark came, someone from Africa came, someone from India came, someone from the US came, and all they got surprised that, why, understand all of you. What's going on, right? And then, particularly for Japan, it's the reverse, right? We are one of the youngest populations in the entire world. Average is 23, right? I think in the US it's probably 41, 42. So, the baby boomer is kind of the problem in the US, right? That's why healthcare is a big opportunity. But in the Philippines, right, it's this rising population, young population, how to make sure that they're actually preoccupied, but at the same time convert that to efficiency, right? So what we try to do is really kind of get ideas and prototypes, this is idea space now, into products and hopefully to forums like here in Silicon Valley, right? Because what we found out in the Philippines, and this is really my plea to you, no one invests in ideas. Even the richest people in the Philippines don't invest in someone they do not know, right? So, I don't know, in the Philippine context, it's called the kakilala for our guys from the US. But in Silicon Valley, what I realized is that because of your resume, your merit, some people actually invest because you have a good idea. In Manila, before we even came, that was the big hole, right? So actually that's one of the analysis of Christina and STAC, is that the angel investor community was non-existent, and I just took the recommendation and just implemented it. So it's not my brainchild. So we give around in between $10,000, $15,000 to $120,000 per idea, right? So there doesn't mean that there's no demand. So we proved actually that there are 700 teams that applied just to my 10 spots. Just some numbers, right? So getting to Harvard is around 5.9%, getting to Idea Space is 1.4%. So it's not as easy, but it just means that the demand is so high for their ideas to actually become real. So that's why it's always a plea to everybody that if you find, like for example, page number, shoot and sell, or I don't know, my legal whiz is here, just one virtual source, right? Evaluate obviously if it's a good business, but if it's a good business, even if you don't know who they are, or if you check their background, take a chance, invest in them, right? They might be the next Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, we can go. So this is what Christina was talking about, that I moved back, we were talking about this, I don't know if Dennis is here. We had a STAC meeting, we said, what do we really need to do? Oh, the ecosystem is, a lot of holes. And only in the past year and a half, things just like went ballistic. And it's also a factor of the economic growth of the Philippines, right? So all the things boxed in red just happened literally less than 18 months ago, right? From now, we can think about funding it from the R&D stage, which also went a whole lot, all of a sudden to bridge it to the traditional venture capital. Before those things in the middle came along, there were already maybe 2 or 3 VCs, but they invest a minimum of $500,000 and above. So if you have an idea, you don't want to give $500,000, right? You want to give maybe bite sizes. So they just said, we don't invest in that. So for maybe 10 years or so, even there were VCs already present in the Philippines, they didn't really invest in the micro investments to just get it from idea to product. And now it's there, and hopefully with some people here that might want to help in the Philippines, that's another thing to do. So this is another very, very interesting chart. What types of ideas actually are present in the Philippines? Obviously, there's the IT, mobile, digital, which kind of reflects what's happening in Silicon Valley. But out of the 700 applicants that actually I collected, there are people who gave me, how to drill, more efficiently in the mountains, right? So it's a mining idea. Or someone like, how do I monitor recording? Actually, one of the guys that I invested in does knee joints, right? So he found a way. So orthopedic surgeon actually trained in Wisconsin or Minnesota, one of them. And then he went back to the Philippines. Like, I don't know why there is no knee joint specific to the Asian sizes, right? I don't know. If you guys go now and to Kaiser Permanente or whatever, get a knee replacement, most likely it's from Johnson & Johnson or Stryker or something. But what if it doesn't fit me? They said, sorry, too bad. You have a fat knee. Right? So this is some of the interesting ideas that my last slide. So it's really just quick presentation. Water purification. Apparently, 50 people die every day in the Philippines just because of water contamination. And if you scale it up to Africa, scale it up, actually maybe even in South America, there's just a lot of people that need clean water. So these guys, their kids got sick. So they said, why don't we actually do something about it? And then Time Free, who's now gotten a large contract with one of these remittance companies, the biggest one in the world, now will scale to 3 different countries. And literally just trying to address no waiting in lines anymore, right? So you come to like Cheesecake Factory, you get the number, they just text you or email you 15 minutes before your turn. So you can do whatever, you can go to the mall. I went to Palo Alto, I always wait in PF Chat, it sucks, right? But this one, hopefully, like they replace that kind of buzzer system with this thing. Just because I want to go out, I want to do stuff, I want to shop, I don't want to wait. And they tell you if you're out of range, you lose your turn. That doesn't make any sense. Right? So these guys address that. They're from Zamboanga and Tawi-Tawi. And then Pinoy Travel, which is the bus company, right? Because people take buses, not everybody can afford to fly. So that's kind of my my last slide, and hopefully it gives you, paints a picture for especially the people here the first time knowing about our ecosystem in the Philippines, that it is thriving, and there's also some differences, but from that actually it creates opportunity, right? So I invite you guys, please come visit the Philippines, and then people here, first time I think that someone from the Philippines actually presented in a Tech Crush hackathon. That is an achievement I think I can give to STAC and the consulate and the people. That's actually quite amazing. I didn't even know it's going to be this soon, but as like the Philippines, the growth has just been really quick. In the next, I think 10 to 15 years is what will define the country, and hopefully you guys will be part of that. Okay, that's really it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Earl. And right now I'm going to introduce to you one of our youngest board members. We actually were introduced to